something that it's hard for people to accept is that in the natural birth community, you do have a lot of genuinely good people who get into it. They become doulas because they want to watch babies be born. They become midwives because they think they have a talent that can help make the world a better place. We've had midwives on this show. There's the conversations with Lydia that are really beneficial when you want to understand that not every midwife is bad, but all midwifery is dangerous type of thing. But one of the problems with the natural birth community and the way that it relates to placentas, and an extremely important reason that we need to talk about placentas, is the confirmation bias for the natural birth, out of hospital birth community, for doulas, especially when it comes to placenta encapsulation doulas. They are the fire behind the misinformation that placentas don't die. They are the reason people talk about placentas as if they don't die.
Yeah, I was going to do that.
You need to understand, because what you see a lot is you see doulas being like, placentas don't die. This is the placenta of my 43-week, 4-day home birth twin mama of mono twins. And she had me placenta, encapsulate this placenta and yada, yada, yada. Well, no shit. Her placenta is healthy. Her babies were born and they're healthy. If her babies weren't healthy, they wouldn't have been able to be born at home, and you never would have gotten the placenta. So even if you are a good person, you genuinely believe in the power of what you do, you can't say you have seen the full spectrum of reality, because just like any home birth midwife that has a repeated level of success and they never see terrible things happen in their birth centers or at their home births, they're only not seeing terrible things happen because they get the bad situations to the hospital. They're not avoiding bad situations. They're just better at getting it out of their hands before a death becomes their responsibility. So when you're talking to placenta encapsulating doulas, talking about how a 43-week placenta is fine, a 42-week placenta is fine, they don't die, they don't die, they don't die, because the placentas that are dying are killing the babies. And that baby is born via C-section in a hospital with a doctor, and the placenta is automatically sent out to pathology, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. You're just not seeing the bad. And anybody who's watching this that is wrapped up in the home birth community, that is the biggest lesson that you need to learn. If you can't look at the midwife who's in charge of your care and think of her as an evil, terrible, wrongdoing person, you have to at least admit to yourself that she only sees a small fraction of what's going on out there. So even if her reality or his reality, there are male midwives, even if your doula's reality is that bad things don't happen in birth, it's not because bad things don't happen, it's because they don't see them. Because their career and the obligations of their career, if they're fulfilling the obligations of their career, prevent them from seeing the bad thing.
Their whole career might be 800 births if they're an experienced midwife who does it for 30 years. But a doctor sees 800 births while they're still in training, while they're still not in attending. They're a resident. So the number of births, it's a statistics game. You know, if you have only seen this many births, you might have gotten all good because the luck was that you didn't get one of the bad outcomes. But, you know, when you start, when you have enough births, you're going to have a bad outcome, especially when you take away all the precautions and all the things that to keep births safe. When we're just rolling the dice, like we did in the 1800s, just roll the dice, you're going to roll some bad outcomes.
But they weren't rolling the dice in the 1800s. In the 1800s, they weren't rolling the dice. They were like, is there something that can get this baby out of me with less pain? Is there something that can get this baby out of me safer? They were rolling the dice because they had no choice. Like there was no alternative option to dice rolling. So they were like,
has to make the choice where they either
I guess I gotta do this. I hope I don't get snake eyes.
I hope I don't die.
So yeah, it's just, there's not to like make it about my midwife, but you brought this up, how a good, well-experienced 30-year professional midwife might see like 800 births. Do you guys want to know how many births my midwife did in
And the number of
2020?
years. And the number of years she practiced.
In 2021 alone, my midwife, who's only been licensed to work in New York State since 2017, not her whole career, but as a single midwife practice in 2021 alone, delivered over 150 babies. How can you
do
be
that times $4,000?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
She recently bought $1 million house and the property next to the building that my baby died in. So she makes a lot of money. She's very good at making
$600,000. So think a doctor is making maybe 250 to 300. And I've been working with a company, well, this nonprofit, it's called PPP, Physicians for Patient Protection. And they show the difference between how much training a doctor has versus even just a nurse practitioner. They're going after nurse practitioners. They have 10,000 hours, and then a midwife doesn't even have 1,000 hours. Even as a nurse, they don't have much training, where you have a doctor, like Liz said, you're seeing 800 in 1 year versus 800 your whole career.
Can I share something really interesting? This is personal experience, but then also why I have such a problem with midwives. Okay. I believed at first, after my son died, that my midwife made a mistake. It was just a mistake. Okay. Mistakes happen. I really believed it was a mistake. So when I started speaking out about what happened, and I learned about what happened, I was overdue. Placentas aren't meant to last very long. Low fluid happens because of the placenta is not doing very good. So there's all these things that can happen. Your cord can happen, like cords collapse and happen. Like so many things can happen with as time goes on, which is not meant to go that way. When I started sharing out about what happened, you would be surprised of how many people were like, stop attacking midwives, stop attacking midwives. Don't attack them. Don't talk. When I was talking about placentas and I was talking about going overdue and how it's dangerous, and in the natural birth community, it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous to go overdue. It's a badge of honor to go overdue and hold your baby in even longer, because then your baby is fully grown, because somehow that 40 weeker or the 39 weeker and the 42, somehow that 42 magic number is they're fully developed. That's a blow to crap. Well, if you know my situation went viral, and a lot of big famous midwives of the United States got involved. Well, there was one in particular that runs a magazine and that shared my stuff, named Jan Trenton. And when she shared it and we reached out to each other, and she wouldn't share my story. She claimed she would allow me to share my story, but wouldn't share my story because she said it was her editor said it's too much against midwives and home birth. So they couldn't share what just happened. By the way, I didn't even give my opinion about midwives or home birth. It was literally just my story of what happened. So I said, okay, can we do something else and educate about like low fluid and, going overdue and the placenta? Like, I just wanted to educate the midwives, the doulas, whoever's out there that doesn't know this is dangerous, because you don't want to reach a certain point with dangerous with your clients. You want to get them to the hospital and safe and, do the right thing, go be transferred. She agreed to this. And she went off, and it took them like, oh my God, almost 6 months or something, like an insane amount of months. They finally came back with this story that they were like, you're going to be so happy and so proud, and it's going to make such a difference. And oh my gosh, we're educating midwives just like you wanted to do. And she sent me this, she sent me a real hard copy, a couple copies of it about low fluid and all this stuff. And if you read the whole thing, it's like, oh, low fluid, da, 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 technical terms, all this stuff. And they're talking about, when you get right down to the end, it says, if a doctor's trying to tell you that your baby has low fluid and they're trying to warn you that there's going to be distress for your baby, they are lying to you. It's in the last paragraph of this big, long, whatever story. I swear to you. Then they go on to say that basically placenta does not die. Nothing wrong with the placenta. There's no such thing as low fluid and no fluid, and that it is a medical scam that they're trying to trick you into a C-section. I got it. Like, I can show you that.
Is atrocious. Atrocious. I go to those deliveries. That is a lie. They are lying to you. People watching this video, that is a lie. And babies die from low fluid and placental insufficiency. It is a lie.
Yeah. And she did it to me. She smacked me right in the face of, I got this thing, you want to educate. I wasn't going after anything. I wasn't anything. I was like, I just want better care coming from midwives. And then that was the moment that I realized home birth center midwives have no desire to update, to have increased training or education. They have no desire about our care and our safety and our well-being. It is all about their business. It is about their reputation. It is about their money. That was the moment that totally changed everything for me, because this was somebody that could have made such a difference by explaining the function of placentas, but explaining low fluid is a real dangerous thing. Clearly, it happened to me, and my kid is not here, and it happens more often than we would probably even know. It happens all the time. Doctors see it all the time. What do you think they're monitoring you for? They're looking at baby. They're looking at fluid. They're looking at placenta. They're looking at the cord. They are constantly looking at things all the time to examine, to make sure things are flowing how they're supposed to flow. And if something is off, they'll tell you, hey, this is different than what we checked last week or a few days ago. We need to investigate. And they'll tell you that we need to investigate further. They do more tests, they do more stuff, more monitoring. And then they're like, you know what? You're at that point where it is safer for your baby to be on the outside than to stay in there and take any more chances and risks with your baby. That is a doctor. Midwives are like, just let it happen. Just let it go. No, that's not real. Doctors are taking advantage of you, making money. You're making more money at home to do nothing, to do no monitoring. So that's what I've learned. So whenever we talk about placentas and low fluid and all this stuff, they all go hand in hand. And I have argued online with midwives. Okay, I have videos on this channel about how we explain why overdue is dangerous. We explain why the protocol for doctors across the whole United States is changing. They're starting to do induction at 39 weeks and not waiting till 40 or later. We are explaining that, guess what's happening? They're realizing people are reaching 40 and their placentas are giving out. And they're having stillborns in the week 40. We always assumed it was like, okay, after 41 weeks was overdue. Well, they've learned between 40 and 41, we're losing a lot of preventable baby death. Like the babies are dying in this week. So the doctors are like, we need to be more proactive. We now have the studies. We now have the data after all these years of all the numbers, all the babies that had to die to learn this study to say, placentas can give out at any time. We don't actually know when we actually conceive. Like there's so much information that they're like, let's be preventative. Let's start at 39 weeks. But then I have midwives attack me. I have midwives report me. I have all these things because they're like, you're giving false information. That is not true. And I'm like, it is true.
It is
Look it up.
And why do
another
they hate
reason
that?
they're
Because they
inducing-
can't induce you. Because a midwife can't induce you. So
No, they can't.
they couldn't make money. If you need to be induced, then they can't help you. They can't give you an ultrasound. Why would they say you should be getting biophysical profiles at the end of your pregnancy, especially if you want to go past 40 weeks? No, because they can't give that. You have to give that money to a doctor. And that doctor would be like, I don't think a home birth is a good idea. So they don't want to lose money.
True. And also
Exactly.
we need to get the facts in here. Inducing at 39 weeks has a lower risk of C-section and induction failure than inducing past 40 weeks. So that's another reason why they are inducing earlier, because you have a more physical chance of a vaginal birth versus a surgical birth. Most people with their first babies want a vaginal birth. So if we induce a little bit earlier and have a higher success rate of a vaginal birth, they're going to do it. There's research, there's science as to why they are now looking at 39 weeks.
I had no clue on that. But also another fact is 25% of all stillbirths are completely preventable. And I mean, that's a lot of babies.
Yep.
It's huge.
Huge.
Thank you for bringing that up because it is true. A lot of people think induction is going to lead to the cascade of interventions that we all hear about, and then it's going to end up with a C-section. But they found that somebody that they do at 39 weeks, you can take your time, they can process how they need to, get a vaginal birth versus even at 40 weeks, just that 40 week, they do that and all of a sudden, oh, something's happens, baby's in distress, mother's in distress, something happens, and then you end up in an emergency C-section anyways. But they found that the pinpointed time is that like 39 week is like that, just that right little moment because your placenta is faring well. You normally have a good amount of fluid and your baby is doing good too. You need to have all the components line up or it just doesn't work out. That's really what it is. And it's what all of us have learned. If something is off, look what happens.